People often misunderstand the Sigma man. They assume he's cold, distant, or thinks he's better than others, when in reality, he just doesn't feel the need to prove anything. He's just minding his own business. Yet the way he carries himself breaks the usual social script, and that's enough to make people uneasy. Having one of the rarest personality types only makes this gap wider. When others can't label him, they start guessing. And the quieter he is, the more people assume there's something wrong with him, or that he's hiding something. But what they don't realize is that his calm, detached energy isn't a flaw. It's power under control. And that kind of presence forces people to see themselves more clearly than they want to. In this video, we'll uncover 6 subtle traits that make Sigma men so intimidating. Habits that seem harmless on the surface but quietly change how people act around them. 1. They always look serious around new people. First impressions happen in seconds, and most people respond with smiles, forced laughter, and friendliness that feels rehearsed. Sigma men skip that entire routine, not because they're rude, but because smiling at strangers feels dishonest when they don't know if there's anything to smile about yet. This seriousness isn't anger or coldness. It's neutrality while they're watching, processing, and deciding if this person is worth opening up to. While everyone else is busy being likable, Sigma men are being selective, and that creates immediate tension. People are used to getting an immediate reaction that confirms they're doing okay. When they don't get that validation, they start to panic a little, wondering if they said something wrong or if he doesn't like them. The Sigma isn't thinking about any of that because he's just not performing the expected social dance. There's a psychological reason this works so effectively. Social psychologist Amy Cuddy found that warmth and competence are the 2 traits people judge fastest in others. Most people lead with warmth to seem approachable, but Sigma men lead with competence instead. That seriousness signals capability and says this person doesn't need your approval to function, which completely flips the script. Suddenly, people are trying to earn his smile instead of the other way around. Here's the part nobody admits out loud about this dynamic. That seriousness feels like judgment even when it's not, because when someone's face gives nothing away, your brain fills in the blanks with assumptions. Most people assume the blank expression is disapproval, so they start explaining themselves and justifying things he never questioned. The Sigma man didn't ask for any of that, but his silence created space for people to reveal more than they planned, and once they realize that, they feel exposed. 2. They don't talk much, but they're brutally honest. Small talk functions as a social lubricant that keeps conversations smooth and safe, but Sigma men don't use it much. Not because they're incapable of it, but because it feels like wasted time and energy. When they do speak, it's direct with no fluff, no softening, and just the truth as they see it, which catches people completely off guard. Most conversations are built on acceptable little lies like claiming you're fine when you're not, saying something sounds great when it doesn't, or suggesting you should hang out soon when neither person means it. Nobody expects you to mean these things either because it's just how the social game works. Sigma males don't play that game at all. If you ask their opinion, they'll give it unfiltered, and if they don't want to hang out, they'll say no instead of maybe or we'll see. There's something called the mum effect in psychology, where people avoid delivering bad news because they don't want to be associated with negative feelings. So they sugarcoat, deflect, and avoid difficult truths. Sigma men skip that entirely because they'd rather deliver uncomfortable truth than comfortable lies, viewing honesty as a form of respect even when it stings. But here's the problem with unfiltered honesty in social settings. Honesty without cushioning feels like an attack to most people, who hear the truth and assume there's malice behind it when there's not. The Sigma man just answered the question directly, but because most people pad their responses with reassurance and softness, the unpadded version sounds harsh or cold. That's not his intention at all. He assumes people want real answers when they usually don't because what they actually want is validation, And when they don't get it, they call him intimidating when really they're just uncomfortable being told what they already knew. 3. They're not easily impressed. Everyone's competing for something in modern society, whether it's attention, approval, recognition, showing off the new car, celebrating the promotion, or sharing vacation photos. Most people react with enthusiasm because that's what keeps social bonds strong and relationships comfortable. Those with a Sigma personality don't fake enthusiasm just to maintain social harmony. If something's genuinely impressive, they'll acknowledge it, but if it's not, they won't pretend otherwise. This creates an immediate social problem because people are conditioned to expect reactions. When they share something they're proud of and get a flat response, they feel dismissed or undervalued. But Sigma Man isn't dismissing them at all. He's just not performing excitement he doesn't genuinely feel. And there's a significant difference. He might think it's fine or even good, but fine doesn't generate the reaction people are hunting for in their interactions. This is called the spotlight effect, where people overestimate how much others notice and care about what they do. Sigma males are living proof that most people aren't paying that much attention because they're too focused on their own priorities to get worked up over someone else's highlight reel. That indifference feels like rejection, even though it's not personal, but rather just a matter of perspective. The intimidation comes from how this situation forces self-reflection. When someone doesn't react the way you expect, it forces you to question your own hype and wonder if you overestimated the significance of your achievement. That self-doubt is deeply uncomfortable, so instead of sitting with it and examining it, people blame the Sigma Man for not being supportive enough or not celebrating them adequately. But he's not obligated to validate anyone, and the fact that he doesn't need to is exactly what makes people nervous, because if he's not impressed, maybe the thing they're chasing isn't actually worth it. 4. They are not big on people's feelings. Emotions are valid, and everyone knows that line by now. But valid doesn't automatically mean justified or reasonable in every situation. Sigma men understand the difference clearly. You can feel however you want because that's your right as a human being, but your feelings don't dictate reality, and they definitely don't obligate anyone else to manage them for you. That perspective sounds cold at first until you realize how much energy most people spend managing emotions that aren't even theirs. This doesn't mean Sigmas are heartless or uncaring about others. They care about people genuinely, but they don't take responsibility for emotional reactions they didn't cause or contribute to. If someone's upset because they misunderstood something, that's on them to clarify and work through. If someone's offended by straightforward honesty, that's their sensitivity showing, not his cruelty. He's not going to apologize for existing in a way that makes someone else uncomfortable when he hasn't done anything wrong. Harriet Lerner wrote extensively about emotional responsibility in relationships and found that people often weaponize their feelings to control others, whether consciously or unconsciously. The pattern is familiar. I'm hurt, so you need to change your behavior. I'm upset, so you need to fix this situation for me. Sigma men don't accept that trade or that manipulation. They'll listen and they'll care about what you're going through, but they won't rearrange themselves or compromise their boundaries to soothe someone else's emotional reaction. Here's why that's really intimidating to many people in social situations. Most people use emotions as leverage in relationships and interactions, and they've learned that expressing hurt or discomfort can shift outcomes in their favor. Sigma males don't respond to that leverage at all because they stay steady regardless. That steadiness feels like indifference or like he doesn't care about their feelings, but he does care. He just cares about truth and honesty more than temporary comfort. 5. They keep their word and hate complainers. Say what you mean and mean what you say sounds simple, but most people don't actually operate that way in practice. They overcome it, cancel last minute, make promises they forget about by next week, And this behavior has become so normalized that it's almost expected in social interactions. Sigma males don't do that at all. If they say they'll do something, they follow through. And if they can't commit, they simply don't agree in the first place. But there's a flip side to this reliability that makes them difficult to be around for some people. They expect the same level of commitment and follow-through in return. And when someone constantly complains without doing anything to fix their problem, Sigma males lose patience fast. Complaining without action is just venting with no intention to change, and they see it as meaningless noise. Their logic is straightforward. If you're unhappy, do something about it. And if you can't do anything about it, stop talking about it. Martin Seligman researched learned helplessness and found that people who complain without taking action often believe they can't change their situation, so they vent to feel heard and validated. Sigma males don't see venting as productive at all. They see it as rehearsing victimhood, and that fundamental gap in perspective creates friction. The complainer wants empathy and emotional support, while the Sigma male wants solutions and action. What makes this intimidating is the accountability factor that Sigma males bring into relationships. They hold themselves to their word consistently, and that forces people around them to do the same whether they want to or not. You can't keep making excuses when someone next to you isn't making any, because it highlights the gap between what people say they'll do and what they actually do. Nobody likes being reminded of that gap, so instead of stepping up and meeting the standard, they call the Sigma male too rigid, too harsh, or too demanding when really he's just consistent. 6. They're unpredictable but controlled. Most people follow predictable patterns that make them easy to read, from their reactions to their schedules to their opinions on various topics. That predictability feels safe and comfortable to others. Sigma men break that pattern constantly, not for attention or to be difficult, but because rigid routines feel like traps that limit their options. So they change things up regularly, leaving early, showing up late, switching plans without much warning, and that unpredictability keeps people constantly guessing. But here's the crucial difference that people miss when observing this behavior. They're not chaotic or impulsive in their unpredictability. Every move is calculated and intentional. They're changing variables to see what happens, testing limits, and exploring different options. While it looks spontaneous from the outside, there's always structure underneath guiding their decisions. They're in complete control even when it looks like they're winging it, and that combination of flexibility and control is deeply disorienting for people who need predictability to feel secure. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi studied flow states and found that people perform best when challenge and skill are balanced appropriately. Too predictable, and you're bored and understimulated. Too chaotic, and you're anxious and overwhelmed. Sigma men live in that middle zone naturally, with enough structure to stay grounded, but enough variability to stay engaged and interested. The intimidation comes from the loss of control this creates for others. When you can't predict someone's behavior, you can't control them or the interaction, and people rely heavily on patterns to know how to act around each other. If someone always responds a certain way, you know what to expect and can plan accordingly. But when their reactions shift unpredictably, you lose that anchor and suddenly you're navigating blind, which makes people cautious and exhausting as they overthink every interaction.